Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 405, an overview of the heart, part 2, the chaos zone within your soul. The podcast objectives are analyze the intersection of the heart and the mind, analyze the role of understanding in our hearts, and analyze the chaotic nature of our hearts. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. The thoughts and intents of the heart. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 201 of our exposition of lawlessness. That's right, we've been on this journey for 200 plus days now, and I hope you are still enjoying yourself as much as I am, because we are still a long ways away from finishing this course. Now, in the most recent podcast, we began executing a deep dive into our hearts using the illustration below. As you can clearly see, both the left and right complexes of your heart serve as gateways, similar to the left and right brain in your thought dimension. Along these lines, the left complex, like the left brain, processes physical data. To wit, the physical output originating from your thought dimension. Likewise, the right complex, like the right brain, processes spiritual data. To wit, the spiritual output originating from your thought dimension. Now, if you recall, there are two primary components to an informed thought, vis-a-vis a mental summary and a plan, both of which are required for you to act upon the informed thought, for they are aligned with the original stimuli that entered your thought dimension from the start. And yet, these stimuli never make their way into your heart. As you learned in the prior series, the execution of an informed thought has a spiritual nature. Ergo, it is passed into the right complex of your heart. As you can see by the diagram below, the right complex of your heart is identical to the right brain within your thought dimension. To wit, it is defined by a sensory region and a motor region, as you can see by the diagram below. Like the sensory region in your right brain, the sensory region in your right complex is defined by a zone of creativity. It is within this zone that your right complex receives the execution component of an informed thought, after which it employs the models of concept, imagination, and truth to generate a more complete thought. Along these lines, your right complex has a mental faculty, which may seem odd considering the nature of the heart. Notwithstanding, the heart must also have mental faculties, for it must receive the thoughts generated by the mind to formulate intentions, which is why the scriptures reveal that the heart is the location of both thoughts and intentions. Hebrews 4:12 is revealing, For the word of Elohim is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of soul and spirit, and of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intents of the heart. First Chronicles 28, 18 through 19 is revealing. O Yahuwah, Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Israel, our fathers, guard this forever in the intent of the thoughts of the heart of your people, and prepare their heart towards you. And give my son Shaloma a perfect heart to guard your commands and your witnesses and your laws, to do all, and to build the palace for which I have prepared. Give me an understanding heart. Now, these are just a few of the many verses that confirm the process in which thoughts enter our hearts, where they become intentions. And yet, you must remember that the heart is not designed in the same manner as the mind. To wit, the mind generates thoughts. Thoughts are the output. On the other hand, the heart is designed to generate intentions. Thoughts are the input. Ergo, the mental faculties of the heart are not designed for construction. They are designed for analyses. Along these lines, the analysis of an informed thought within the right complex, i.e., the spiritual division of your heart, is designed to interpret the data passed on to it from the thought dimension. As you would expect, this is how your heart achieves understanding. For where there is no understanding, there can be no alignment between the faculties of the mind and the heart. And where there is no alignment, there can be no informed intent. And where there is no informed intent, there will be chaos, which you will see as we progress this development. But first, let's see what the scriptures have to say about understanding in the heart. Psalm 49:3 is revealing, my mouth speaks wisdom, and the meditation of my heart brings understanding. Proverb 2:1-5 is revealing, my son, if you accept my words and treasure up my commands with you, so that you make your ear attend to wisdom, incline your heart to understanding. For if you cry for discernment, lift up your voice for understanding. If you seek her as silver and search for her as hidden treasures, then you would understand the fear of Yahuwah and find the knowledge of Elohim. Now, in line with these passages, the heart is designed to achieve understanding, to wit, the understanding of the will of Elohim, which is encapsulated within the execution summary passed on to the spiritual division of your heart from the spiritual division of your mind. Remember, the ultimate goal of your thought dimension is to align your thoughts with the Father's vision for your life. And although you achieve a basic alignment within your thought dimension upon your mastery of obedience and faith, there are two additional phases an informed thought must endure before you become proficient in your execution of the Father's will. And the second phase in this process occurs as you achieve understanding in your heart. Therefore, I encourage everyone, everywhere, when you pray from the start, say, give me a mind to do your will, O Elohim, and give me an understanding heart. It always results in chaos. Now, after the right complex achieves understanding, its spiritual interpretation of the informed thought is passed on to a key facet of your heart. Enter the alignment complex. You can see this by observing the image to the right. This diagram is a detailed illustration of the heart, which provides even greater insight than the diagram I shared earlier in this lesson. The alignment center is a cordial faculty within the right and left complexes. It is designed to align the thoughts it receives as input from the thought dimension with the existing thoughts within each complex. Along these lines, there is a historical aspect to your alignment center. To it, your alignment center retains a cordial record of every thought it receives from your mind. Now, the thoughts in your right complex are spiritual in nature, and they represent the execution portion of the informed thought. Here again, this is aligned with your right brain. On the other hand, the thoughts evolving from your left complex are physical in nature, and yet they are not aligned with your left brain, to wit, your physical mind. Here lies the inflection and the problem. To wit, your left brain is a zone of logic, which is crucial in the generation of an informed thought. But alas, your left complex, i.e., your physical heart, is not a zone of logic. Quite the contrary, it is a zone of chaos. You can see this by observing the diagram below. To wit, the left complex is a zone of chaos defined by indifference, lawlessness, and theory. No doubt, this is a far cry from the left brain, which is represented by a zone of logic defined by analysis, problem solving, and facts, as you can see by the diagram below. Now, this speaks to one of the primary differences between our hearts and our minds, and it is largely defined by the difference in how they process and interpret physical data. To wit, the mind is a logical entity, and thus the faculties of the thought dimension are aligned with the models of logic. As for the heart, it is not a logical entity. Quite the contrary, the heart is a sensual entity. Vis-a-vis, it does not apply logic to its interpretation of the senses, for the heart is, by default, devoted to the gratification of the senses. Here lies the problem, explicitly with the left complex, which I will uncover by detailing its operations. In this order, the left complex receives the planning component of an informed thought. This planning component reflects how you should execute the vision revealed to you by Elohim. Here again, these plans are physical in nature. They are specific, concrete steps you should take to ensure his vision for your life comes to pass. Now, when these plans are received by the left complex of your heart, they are met with a sensual faculty that seeks first to understand the physically gratifying nature of the plan. I trust you see the obvious conflict here. Vis-a-vis, the mind as a logical entity is not interested in physical gratification. On the other hand, the heart as a chaotic and sensual entity is interested. It is very interested. Why? The answer is sure. Physical gratification intensifies the sensual faculties of your heart. And yet, here is the thing you must consider. You must always remember when physical gratification is finished, when it is truly finished, it always results in chaos. Alas, this is how the left complex of your heart is designed, as you can see by the diagram below. And thus, the alignment of physical thoughts within our hearts is extremely chaotic and often incoherent. My dear friends, this is why the hearts of men are so very wicked and our world is so very cursed. Now, here is the final word. The way of life is very demanding, and thus you must set your heart to understanding. Brothers and sisters, I trust you were able to gather this from the word of truth I shared in this lesson. And yet, you must believe me, we are still barely scratching the surface as it pertains to the great evil associated with the human heart. As I said before, it's a long way down before we reach the bottom. And all we're doing now is giving you a high level preview of what we are dealing with. For that reason, I encourage you to stay with me. Trust me, I understand that this analysis is painstaking to say the least. But if you recall, we went through the same exercise with our minds. We did the same analysis, and it was necessary to truly understand and appreciate the damage of doubt and disobedience. My dear friends, you must believe me as I say, the danger and damage of contempt is even greater than the damage and danger of doubt and disobedience. It is even more deadly. Heretofore, I encourage you to set your mind to receive this knowledge, even though it will be greatly demanding. And thus, I will say it again. When you pray, say, Elohim, give me a heart of understanding. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on all the lessons you have heard this week and ask the Father to give you clarity on anything you are struggling to receive. And if you are led, please feel free to reach out to me. You can fill out a form on our website and let us know what questions you have. And remember, the only question that can truly hurt you is the one you fail to ask. Last but not least, enjoy the upcoming Shabbat and the weekend, and be ready to get back at it next week as we continue to make our calling and election sure in pursuit of the precious and priceless seal of Elohim. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 405, an overview of the heart, part 2. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 406, the Generation of Intentions, part 1. I will post this podcast on Monday, January 20th, 2025. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.